Alright guys, now here we are, the igniter is here and we are going to finally get it replaced, okay? Before we begin this job, I just want to say a couple things for safety. You want to make sure that there's no power going to the heater. I made sure of that inside, so the heater won't come on. If you want to go a step further and maybe shut off your equipment or shut the breakers off, that's certainly okay as well. But for now, we're good to go with that. And the second step for this particular job is we're going to be disconnecting the gas line, so you want to make sure this gas valve is closed. So let's go ahead and close that. Okay, the gas valve is closed. Now the next step is, with a flathead screwdriver, go ahead and unlatch the front cover, and once it is fully unlatched, or front panel cover, whatever you want to call it, once it is unlatched, it should pop forward. Get that one and this one. There it goes. Okay. Then when it pops forward, you can just lift it up and get it out of the way. And we'll just lay it down over here. That works just as well. Okay. Now the next thing you could do is, you'll have these three screws. If you remember, I told you were not put in. You'll have this screw, and this screw here, and here's one of them. And the way you can get them out is you can either use a Phillips head screwdriver, or you can either use a 5/16 socket or an 8mm socket, and that will get them both out. And the next thing you want to do is, again, make sure that the gas valve is off. You want to disconnect the pipe joint here, and you can use either use adjustable pliers or a pipe wrench. Both work just as well. And then you can go ahead and get it off. Now I may need two hands for this, so I'll be back as soon as that's taken care of. Okay, I loosened the nut, and now it should just unthread like this. Again, you want to make sure the gas valve is off if you're doing this. Okay, there we go, it's off. Now what you want to do is, here's your two wires for the igniter. You want to disconnect both of them here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now that the igniter wires are disconnected, as you can see, which are right here, you can, and this is disconnected, you can pull this out just a little bit, not all the way yet, because there's a couple of other wires you need to disconnect. I'm just going to pull it out to show you. And just be careful with it, try not to be too harsh with it. There you go. Okay. Now the next couple of wires you want to disconnect are, oh, by the way guys, before I go into that, it's good to take a picture before you take apart everything, just so you know where everything goes again when you reassemble. You want to take off these two wires here, which are for the gas valve. So let's go ahead and take those off now. If they're a little rough, just give them a pull and they'll come off. There you go. There's one, and there's the other. Next thing you want to do is, you'll have a black wire going down here. That goes to your flame sensor, and that is connected right there. So you'll have to try to give it a little pull. Try not to be too rough on it. There you go. Comes right out. Now the whole assembly should be free to move. And it is. Look at that. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to move this over to the table and get started on everything. Alright guys, now here we are on the table. You can see we have the old igniter here, or what's left of it, and how it attaches to the burner. So the one thing you got to do is there's a 1/4 inch. There's a 1/4 inch nut right here that we will have to undo to get the old igniter assembly out. Now, it's attached to this one burner itself, so it may wobble a little bit. So try to hold on to it while you try to take off that nut. Now, it is kind of rusted on, so if you need some like penetrating oil or something, that should help you get it out just fine. And as you can see, it's coming out nicely. There we go. Take the nut out, pull out the old igniter, and you can see where it's broken off right there. But there you go. So now we're going to get the new one out, and there are a couple of important notes I want to tell you about the new igniter, but I'll tell you about them when we get to it. Alright guys, so here's the new igniter right here inside this piece of styrofoam. Now, you can carefully remove it, and there's a couple of very important things I want to tell you about. First of all, with any hot surface igniter, this element right here is very delicate and also very fragile, so you want to be very careful with it. And also, you never want to touch the element itself with your fingers or try to and anything that can make contact with, because the oils from your fingers will actually could create hot spots on the igniter element itself. And then when every time it cycles, the hot spots can cause it to fail or burn out prematurely. So do whatever you can to make sure your fingers don't touch the element. So now let's get started to installing it. All right, so first things first, let's untwist these wires here. They're kind enough to give a pretty easy thing to detach on the wires. And again, you want to be careful not to touch the element while you're doing this. There we go. You can just stretch them out, unfold them, whatever you want to call it. And again, do it very carefully. Now, you'll notice this igniter has the same fitting, but it did not come with the nut that the old one had. So it's good to save old parts just to be sure you're not going to need them later on, okay? Now, you want to very carefully slide this in and make sure, again, that the element is not going to touch anything when you do this. So we're going to slide this in very carefully. Doesn't matter how slow you go, better to be safe than sorry. Okay, there we go. Now you want to take that same nut that you took off before and carefully try to hand turn it in to get it started. If it's a little rusty like mine, it may be a little difficult, but it should fit in. There we go. Get it started with your hand, just like that. Now take that same 1/4-inch socket, make sure it's facing the right direction. I think it is, but we'll find out. Let's see. No, it is not. Turn it back around, okay, and tighten it up. And you really don't want to let go of this thing here until it is fully secured and tight. All right, it is fully tight. The igniter is in place. So what you can do is you can continue untying these wires, get them all stretched out so they're easier to reassemble. And then we can bring it back to the heater and slide it back into place. All right, guys, I got the tray assembly now just pushed in carefully. Now, when you push this back in, again, you want to make sure that the igniter does not get touched in any way, because that'd be very bad for it. And then we can start connecting wires. So let's go ahead and push it in very carefully, like so. Again, make sure the igniter goes in nice and careful, just like that. Okay. Now, while we have access to everything, let's reconnect some wires. So these were connected to the gas valve. So let's reconnect those. I remember brown was on bottom and yellow was on top. Again, if they don't fit in, you just give them a good push. There we go. That one's back on. That one's back on as well. Okay. And don't forget, you also want to reconnect your flame sensor. That's very important. So we just hook that onto the plug up here. Hopefully it goes in all right. There we go. And now we're going to get the igniter wires on, but first let me get this pushed back in most of the way. I'm going to need 2 hands to do this, so I'll be right back. And guys, I would also like to note that when you put these igniter wires back on, they can go on either way. It doesn't matter which way you put them on. As long as they're connected, that's all you have to do. So let's go ahead and get this connected now. Okay, now that we have the igniter wires back together, these wires are, by the way, this is heat insulated coating, so just so you know. Our next step is to reattach this union for the gas line, and then once that is in place, put these 3 screws back in. Again, you can either use a Phillips head screwdriver or you can use a 5/16 socket, and that'll put them back on. And you'll have to lift this up and get it level with everything. So once again, I'm going to need 2 hands for that job. So let's get this back together. Alright guys, as you can see, all the screws are in now, and this is all tightened up. Now, When you tighten this back up, it's not a bad idea to get yourself some soapy water. Nothing special, just dish soap or hand soap will work just fine. Just some of that and a paintbrush, and just brush it along here and watch for any bubbles. If you don't see any bubbles, then you should be in good shape. It means you don't have any leaks, and nothing happened with this one, so I know that we're in good shape. Alright, so now that everything is back together, igniter's reconnected, flame sensor's reconnected, and gas valve connectors are reconnected, let's test. Make sure all your equipment is turned back on, everything's reconnected. As you can see here, this is indicating that it's showing flow, which is good. The water is currently 60, it's set to off. So let's set it to pool and see what happens. Okay, we've got to lay down here again. It just clicks, so that's a good sign. The igniter is lighting up. And we have ignition. How about that, folks? And the gas valve just revved up, so that means that it detected the flame, and the flames are lit. Let's go ahead and check the top to be sure. As you can see here, this is indicating that there is flame and there is heat. There's no more error code. We'll take one more look. We'll take one more look down here, and there are your flames. The heater is back in working order. So now what we're going to do is, let's replace our front cover, like so. We're going to drop it in, make sure everything lines up, and push it in, and then get the flathead screwdriver to put the panel latches back on. Okay. Put the screwdriver in, give it a quarter turn clockwise. That one's latched. That one is now latched. And the heater is all back together. So that is how you change your hot surface igniter on your Jandy Lite2 natural gas heater. I hope this video was helpful to you. Hopefully my steps were nice and clear. And if you do it yourself, you could definitely save yourself some money. So there you have it, guys, and thanks for watching, and take care.